Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to our Third Mill Institute Facebook Live this afternoon. If you're here, I would love to know. Let me know that you're here. Say hi. Dr. Dia, we thank you for joining us. Shalom to you as well. You might be joining from YouTube. If you're joining from YouTube, that is fantastic, which means that system is working. We are going to just be waiting a couple minutes as people join in this afternoon, and we're going to be talking about the Institute and our ministry and life skills, and in particular, kind of how our badges work. So if you're here, I would love for you to say hi. Let me know you're here. You can just drop a little hello in the comments. Let us know that you're here. You can even let us know where you're coming from. I have a little icebreaker question today, just a little fun question as we wait for others to join before we get started in full. One of the things I've been thinking about this last week, I saw this in a couple different places we were in, but a fun question could be if who name a person who you would be really shocked or really thrilled to see if they walked into a room. In English, we call it starstruck. So if a famous person, or it could be still alive or have passed away, but somebody famous you were to meet, and you would be freaking out a little bit. You would be starstruck. You would be thrilled to see him, and it would be hard to stay calm. Who might that person be? We have a few people who have commented, some hellos. We have a hi from Colorado. But yeah, who would you be starstruck by if you were to run into them in a mall, or they were to walk into a room? Um, I often answer this question. There's several people, obviously, but if I'm a big fan of an American football team called the Denver Broncos. If their old quarterback Peyton Manning were to walk into the room, or I hear a knock on the door and he is there, it would be very hard to kind of keep it together and not be kind of freaking out. Anyone have an answer to that question? If you oh, we have someone from Ethiopia as well. This could be a famous person from Ethiopia or somebody you haven't seen in a long time. Yes, blessings, Solomon. It is good to have you here. Thanks for saying hello. We're just doing a little icebreaker question. Um, and if it doesn't make sense in another country, let me know. But if somebody famous, you were to meet someone famous and you might stumble over your words, you'd be so excited. Who might that person be? We say it in English, we say starstruck, but it's basically that means that you'd be really, really excited, and it might be hard to make an easy, coherent sentence. If you have one of those, please let me know. But we're a couple minutes in here, and we'll be getting started shortly on our topic of the day. If you're here, thanks for letting us know. Let us know where you're from. Say hello, and you can answer our little icebreaker question. If you were to meet someone really famous, who might be that is starstruck? Maybe a famous pastor, or just a mentor that you haven't seen for a long time, or an author that you follow. Um, Someone can't think of an answer. Um, I know this person, so I could answer for them, but no, we won't do that. Um, I am really inspired by people who have gotten to the top of their craft by really hard work. That's why sports figures are often the amount of dedication it would take to be the top in whatever you're doing. I just, those are kind of people that I always love to meet. And if it coincides with something I really love, like American football, or maybe yes, Taylor Swift. Josie Ann says Taylor. I knew that was going to be the one, but yes, I mean, as famous as she is, I probably would be a little bit starstruck if I saw her. Like, what do you talk to Taylor Swift about? Hey, I guess I could talk about American football, and she probably knows who Peyton Manning is. So if anyone else has any answers to that, fill them in. But we're going to get started here in about 20 seconds. I'll get us going on our topic of the day. We're going to be talking about ministry and life skills. But yes, I'll be getting us started. Jane Austen. That would be, yes, that would be very cool. Like to meet a very famous author like Jane Austen. I like it. Like it. Those are great answers. So, all right, I'm gonna get us started here. All right, welcome to our Third Mill Institute live on Facebook and YouTube today. We thank you that you're joining us. If you're here live, welcome. It's great to have you. Or if you're watching this later, often these are watched later, you're welcome as well. You can, if you've watched a little bit, you can throw in, just say hello, drop a hello if you watch this. Tell us where you're from. We'd love to know. But the Third Mill Institute, if you're new and you haven't encountered it yet, Third Mill, Third Millennium Ministries, is a ministry that has basically developed a master's of theology in seminary education in Bible and theology. And the Institute is a structured certificate and diploma program where we have taken all of the classes and put them into a certificate program where there are 3 separate certificates. We have our biblical foundation certificate, our foundation certificate, our certificate in biblical studies, and our certificate in theological studies. And if you earn all 3 of those, we give you a diploma. We issue, you've earned a diploma in Christian ministry. Each certificate is designed to take about a year. And these courses, the Institute is designed to be done in small groups that we call learning communities. So there's many ways, either doing this online or offline, where you can digest the material, you can watch the videos or read the manuscripts. There's quizzes and tests, but the idea of being in a learning community is that after you've studied, you meet on a regular basis, often this is weekly, to discuss the material. These small groups are led by trainers who basically are just the facilitators of these discussions. They facilitate the discussions, and we provide questions, and we make it easy for you. We give you lots of training on that, as well as kind of tracking the progress of the students to make sure they're finishing. And when they're done, you report to us that these students have finished, and we can issue the certificate or the diploma. We have lots more information that you can access at thirdmillinstitute.org, or you can just go to thirdmill.org and find your way there. All sort of information, even on the Facebook page, lots of videos about what the Institute is about. But with the Institute, we often say we have 3 main goals, and these are super important. The first one is that you understand the material. We want our students to learn how to learn the Bible and theology better. We want you to understand what you're studying. The second main goal is to be able to apply it to your relationship with God. We do not just want the Institute to be an academic exercise. We want it to be a spiritual one as well. We want you to grow, yes, in knowledge, but as well as in your love for God, and be able to apply what you're learning to your relationship with God. And the third one is to be able to apply it to any ministry that you're involved in. We do ask that students would be involved in ministry in some way, shape, or form. There are many different ways to do that, but we want you to be able to learn to apply what you're learning to ministry situations, to the kingdom of God, to helping others grow and do better. And today we're going to be talking about one of the ways we do that, and that's through our ministry and life skills badges. We call them ministry and life skills easily. Badges are little things you can earn. They are little graphics that show up on the certificates. I get it that in some languages, badges don't often mean a lot, and that's fine. So you can just think of these as our ministry and life skills. And I thought I'm going to share a slide that talks a little bit about what these are. Badges, they're our ministry and life skills training. Like I said, these are 1 to 2 page documents. They're short. They come along. If you're doing it offline, they come when you download it, or if you get a micro SD card. Also, they're also all stored in the online classroom. But they're general directions for your group to discuss vital ministry and spiritual life skills. And they're meant to facilitate discussions to allow a trainer to help train in many of these areas, such as evangelism, preaching and teaching, discipleship. We have badges on prayer. And with each of these badges, not only do they help facilitate a discussion, they will include live action steps of things you can do to take your next steps in these. We have badges in many topics. Every single course in all 3 certificates comes with a badge, and we have 14 courses through which take in many lessons, many classes, but each of these courses has a badge. We have badges in family life. We have badges in preaching and or teaching. As I said, we have badges in prayer. We have badges in church life. We have badges in finance. We have badges on how to lead a small group, and obviously evangelism. So there's a lot. And the way these are designed is they're meant to be questions that you can ask in your learning community to help land on some of the answers. And it really is sort of, in many ways, an introduction to these topics. If you do the evangelism badge, you're not going to be an expert in evangelism, but the hope would be that you've taken some significant steps in learning how to share your faith better. So, well, I'm going to talk about first the evangelism badge. The evangelism badge is in our very first certificate. It's in the foundation certificate, and it starts with these questions so that you'll see a little bit what this looks like. I would love if you would like to answer in the comments any of these questions that I'm talking about. Please do. This will be and that will allow you to kind of see how this really works. But you would take time during your learning community time while you're doing the badge, and I'll talk about best practices in a few minutes, but you would take time to answer these questions as a group. What does evangelism look like in your country? How is it viewed? If you have an answer to that, I know we had Solomon for Africa here. There was another guy, Dr. Dia is actually in Canada, does a lot of ministry in Africa. What does it look like, if you can, in Africa to share your faith? How is evangelism viewed? And this is really important that you need as you're learning how to share your faith. What is it like? The second question that you would discuss is, what is a common form of evangelism in your country? And then the third question is, what is the most effective way to share your faith? In some countries, it might be sharing your faith through just walking up to people you don't know, trying to get into a conversation and share the gospel. You know, in the book of Acts, in Acts chapter 17, Paul goes into the Areopagus and just begins meeting people, and he gets up and he talks. He gets up and he shares the gospel because that was the appropriate way in his culture at that time, especially in the Areopagus, which is where you would go to share ideas. That was how it was done. Many places, that's not how it's done anymore. That would not be the best place to share the gospel in the United States. What is the most common way to do it? What is the best way to share the gospel? Is it through relationships? I would argue that in many places, at least in the United States, some of the best places to share, well, we had someone here. Let's see if they would agree with what I was going to say. Sometimes handing out tracts or standing and giving speeches, but that's viewed pretty badly. This comes from someone, I think I could even put this on here. It's shown pretty badly. What works best is when people share with their friends. I would agree with that 100%. It is great to share with your friends. So often, training in evangelism, how do we get to know and form friendships with non-Christians? That might be something you need to talk about. If that was the answer to the question and you're using this badge in learning community, that would be maybe the next question that you might want to ask. That also answers, what is the most common form? And then it's really important, what does it look like in your country? Sometimes in some countries, evangelism, just walking up to someone, could be dangerous and illegal. And if that's the case, as you're talking about the best way to share the gospel, it is very important to answer that question. So that's a few of them. Thank you for answering that. If you have any other answers, you can do that. And then in the evangelism badge, one of the best ways to share the gospel is to think through your own personal testimony. And in the badge, there's more than what's just in the screen, but you will see ways to actively think through what your testimony is like and even practice how to use it. So some of the action points here are: write out your testimony, memorize it. So and when we talk about testimony, and this is in the badge, we're talking about something short, maybe 2 to 4 minutes, maybe 3 minutes is good. Or what's the most appropriate way in your culture? If someone were to share how they came to faith and the difference that being a Christian has made in their life, um, maybe that's yeah. Maybe that's the best. The timing could depend on your country, right? And then so you're going to share it with someone in your learning community so that you get practice. And then we ask you to share your testimony with someone who isn't a Christian to get practice. And then you come back maybe a different week and you share with your learning community how it went. How did it go? What things did you learn? What things might you want to improve? So you really have a chance, and I really have a chance to evaluate it and to learn from this. If it is illegal to share the gospel in the place you live, or you don't know someone, we're not asking you to do something dangerous. Getting practice within your learning community might be the best way to do it, and you can discuss that as a group. We are certainly not asking you at this point, nor is it required by the badge or the institute to do something that would be illegal or dangerous. But maybe start praying for somebody who you could share the gospel with, who you could share your testimony with. So that's a little bit about what our badges look like. If you have any questions at this point, please put them in the comments. But you can see now each badge has a different topic. Another one's going to be about teaching. Another one's about how to have a personal devotional time in the Bible, and those are great ways to do that. But we just gave you a little example of what the evangelism ones look like. So, what are some of the best practices and ways to do this? I've seen these done a number of different ways. Like if you're meeting each week to talk about these badges, or meeting each week, excuse me, to talk about what you're learning in a particular lesson, maybe you set aside 10 or 15 minutes to begin talking about the badge that goes along with that course. So you begin setting aside time to talk about the ministry and life skill that goes along with that course. Sometimes that works. Sometimes it's easy to get caught up and not do that. So maybe you add in an extra week to do it. Maybe you add in an extra week to have this discussion, to really concentrate on it. It might be easier to set aside a little bit of time in different weeks. You don't have to talk about it every week, but if a particular course is 5 or 6 or 7 weeks long, maybe weeks 3 and 4, you begin to talk about it. And then you have people set aside time to share how it's going, to share how it is, or to even break up. Like if you're meeting together to take 10 minutes and to break into groups of 2 and be able to practice and be able to take time to receive feedback. And you can talk it through. If you've shared the gospel a lot, you're very experienced in evangelism and you're a trainer, you'll be able to share your experiences. But if you don't have a lot of experience, the whole group is landing on some of the best practices and answering these questions as an introduction to evangelism. So you can have this set aside as its own separate time in each meeting, or you can gather to do it separately. Questions that we sometimes get are, if you are involved in an institution, we have people who are doing the institute through other partners or schools. If those schools are providing training in many of these areas, the badge is not required. If you're getting training in evangelism or many of these other ministry and life skills, it is not required that you do it our way. I understand that sometimes you're working with a different group and they've already given you training. That's great. What we're not trying to force is that you have to do it our way, but we want to know that students are receiving trainings and ways to apply this stuff, because we don't want it to just be mental or academic. We use the words, and sometimes this really connects with people: head, heart, and hands, to do things with head, heart, and hands. And head is really the studying and learning the material, but heart and hands is having it affect your relationship with God, and being able to apply it to your ministry is really hands. So that's a great way to do it. These are really fun. I think we've gotten a lot of great feedback out in the field that these are very helpful. So I hope that you're able to do these. And then when you're done, when you get the certificate, it'll have, you know, the little emblems that show that you've completed the work, and it really will help equip you to walk closer with the Lord and to apply the things you're learning and to be a more effective minister in the kingdom of God, to be more effective maybe in your local church, to be more effective as you're getting out there and talking to people. So that's our ministry and life skills, or our ministry and life skill badges. If there's any questions, would love to hear them. You can type them in. Hopefully I've explained. And then, you know, on our website, we have more to explain about these. They really are just meant to be an introduction. You will not be an expert. A lot of these things take practice, right? You won't be an expert necessarily in teaching. As you go through the badge, you'll need to be doing it and taking time, but this is your opportunity to do so, because so often practice is key. So just if you're watching this later, please put your questions below and we will get to answering them. If you're interested, there's so many ways to contact us. Obviously here on Facebook or on YouTube is the easiest, but I'm going to wrap us up. It is good. Thank you for all who joined us. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Hopefully this was helpful. Again, feel free to send questions, even if it's not. If you have other questions, you can write us through the messenger here on Facebook. You can contact us through our website. And yeah, so we thank you for being here. It's been great to be with you. And again, we'll be back in 2 weeks with another live. Always ask questions. Have I repeated that enough? Ask questions. We'd be happy to help you. We want to be a resource to help you. So hopefully you're all having a great day. Thanks for watching, and we will be back again soon. We'll see you.